Hey, Lightning, have you heard?
No.
No, I have not.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel and the ones that run on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show, whoa, whoa.
It's the Truck Show with your hosts, Lightning and Holman.
This episode of the Truck Show podcast, Have You Heard? Is proudly presented by Nissan. With the Frontier, Titan, and Titan XD, Nissan has a truck for every need, along with the legendary Nissan durability. Test drive your next truck at a local Nissan dealer today, or point your browser to nissanusa.com, where you can use the build and price tool to configure a Nissan truck that fits your lifestyle.
And when you're thinking about adding power or improving fuel economy, Banks has over 65 years of experience. Whether it's cold air intakes or exhaust systems, tuning, throttle control, charge air cooling, lubrication components, and much more, no one offers smarter, safer, 50-state emissions-compliant performance parts than Gale Banks. You'll find the best engineered parts for your truck at bankspower.com.
This is the show where they talk breaking news, and this is the part where Holman asks Lightning, have you heard?
Hey, Lightning, have you heard?
Oh, hell no!
I would
That one
like...
cracks me up every time.
I'd like to disagree with you. You were there and invited me to this particular thing. But
I know what this is.
So Banks was lucky enough to have a special visitor from a regional GM representative who had been taking the new Silverado EV around to various different fleets and things like that to show them the work truck model. And they had called Mr. Gale Banks and said, would you like to drive the new Silverado EV and take a look at it up on your lift? And Mr. Gale Banks said yes. And then Lightning said, we should have Mr. Holman come. And Mr. Banks said no. And then about an hour before it happened, Mr. Banks said yes.
Yes.
And then I was summoned to partake in this particular experience. So I figured
at first, I got to explain how this happened. So let me tell you how that actually came to be. At first, it was just going to be an engineering exercise. It was going to be Gale and Matt Gamble. And then he thought, no, this would actually be good for the Truck Show podcast because Mr. Holman does talk a lot about EVs, so why not bring him in? And so there was kind of an about face, and boo, whip, there you were.
And there I was. And where I was, there I was
what?
Both was standing next to the Silverado EV up on the hoist. And I will tell you, I actually make a mistake in the beginning of the interview. I have only seen the RST version in person, and that has the 24-inch wheels on it.
This is a work truck.
This was a work truck. And I assumed because it had alloy wheels on it that it was a higher trim than it is. So I surmised that early on and then realized, oh no, this was a work truck with alloy wheels because the early work truck photos all had steel wheels on it. So that kind of threw me for a loop. So, and then I will say, as far as work trucks go, odd trim, too much power and too much style.
And not enough work truckness. Not enough utility, I think.
We'll get into it.
Okay.
All right, so I have taken the trip to Gale Banks Engineering, and I am standing here with somebody fairly important with the company. Sir, what is your name?
It was Gale Banks Engineering years ago, but since I got there, it's Banks Power.
I thought Gale Banks Engineering was the other side of the building, and Banks Power was the consumer-facing.
No. So there's Gale Banks Engineering, and that's the S-Corp.
Yeah.
But no one refers to that anymore. Now it's Banks Power and Banks Technologies.
Oh, Jesus. All right, well, I was there, so.
Yeah.
And I am standing here with somebody fairly important with the company. Sir, what is your name?
Gale Banks.
Oh, your name's on the building.
Yeah.
All right, so the opportunity came up where GM brought you a new Chevy Silverado EV. Mm-hmm. And so this is built on the Ultium platform. It's shared across GM's lineup, shares it with the Hummer Electric. Is this the first time that you've seen one of the electric trucks?
Absolutely the first time.
So
This is an 8-lug, so it's a serious electric truck.
So this truck has, I think, a 9,900 pound gross vehicle weight rating, and its curb weight's around 8,600 pounds. So the way that GM is treating this is it's sort of splitting the difference between half-ton and 3/4 ton. So I know there's some regulations about weight and how many of those vehicles need to be electrified. So this kind of plays because it's above an 8,500 gross vehicle weight rating, but they're really marketing it toward the half-ton customer, even though it's heavy. It has more of.
So the interesting thing about this is that GM, maybe like other manufacturers, found a little bit of a loophole. And everybody's like, oh, these EVs are so heavy. I think that's by design because it gets them into the HD class, even though they're going after more of a consumer. You don't get the payload of an HD, but you do get the towing of an HD. And you also get the tax implications of electrifying a heavy duty, even though it's not the heavy duty that you and I know. It's this other thing.
So you're getting the best of both
Kind of
worlds.
straddles the line a
Double
little bit.
dipping is what you're saying.
I'm just saying they're creative.
Half-ton, I think, ride and feel. I think they made a mistake when they named it. I think they should have called it the Evalanche because it has the same form factor as an old Avalanche did, which is the kind of the no bed separate from the cab with the pass-through and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. It's a good-looking truck. We're looking underneath. We've got it on the hoist. It's got like a full belly pan on it.
Yeah, so the Ultium platform is basically kind of like a EV skateboard where the batteries are housed in the middle between frame rails. So this is still body on frame. And this, I believe, is a 2-motor setup. And so it does have all-wheel drive. But you're right, it's completely flat. There's some bolt heads sticking down and things.
I don't think the GM guy expected it, though, by the way, because he pulls in. The GM guy pulls in, and Gale walks in with him, and then right off on the lift. He's like, what are you guys doing to my truck?
Well, that's part of what happens when you head to Gale Banks Engineering, Technology, and Power.
Yeah. What did you think about? So Gale just remarked about all the bolts sticking down.
Yeah.
Like it was a minefield under there. Gale's tall, right? And I had the lift all the way to its max. I think
I was watching his noggin for sure.
Yeah, 6.5 feet off the ground or so. But Gale was, I don't know what, a centimeter from scraping his head on all of these bolts. Why? It's not a smooth belly
It's a
pan.
manufacturing thing. They're not, it's not an off-road package, so they're not concerned about getting hung up on things. So
this had 100 places to be hung up on.
It wasn't that bad. No, it was other than the bolts.
There was a bunch of 7/16 bolts.
Yeah,
broken
but other than that, the belly was flat.
It looked like a cheese grater to me.
Okay, so it was flat with holes in it, and you still have to have water and dirt to be able to get out.
No, I'm saying not the holes, but like it had all of these bolts sticking down. Like if you hit something, you would.
Yes, if you were driving over cheese, you would shred it. I don't know when you would do that though.
Okay.
Like that, but it basically has a skid plate on the whole underside of the belly,
which appears to be somewhat ventilated. The height of the batteries, I'm going to estimate 5 or 6 inches. We know where the bottom of the batteries is.
Sure.
We're looking at it right now. The top, when they open the door,
you'll be able to see from where the body interface is with the platform.
Where the floor is inside.
So this has up to 14,000 pounds of towing capability, which is really high.
Yeah,
I mean,
trailer.
for trailer. But obviously that's going to impact battery life and things like that. So the interesting thing is the capability is there, but how long can you use the capability? I think there's a balance in this place. So, we've talked about it on the show. I feel like EVs definitely have a place. Are they a third car? Are they last mile delivery? Are they buses? Things like that. I think those are places where it makes a lot of sense. A vehicle like this is really trying to mainstream it for the everyday guy.
If I had one here, it would be an in-town vehicle.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be out on the road with it. I'd be charging overnight here. We can talk about where you can charge on the road and whether or not they're using Teslas or ultimately would use Teslas. Charging.
Yeah, the supercharger network.
Yeah.
I don't want to delve too far down into kind of the tertiary or the adjacent conversation, but let's dive down into the truck specifically.
Yes.
I'd like to crawl under it here. You got it up on the hoist and start getting your impressions of the build quality, lower control arms, drivetrain components, and see what your thoughts are about how the truck is assembled.
Well, let's start at the front and work to the back. We've got forged aluminum control arms. That's sexy.
The lower and the uppers are both
Yeah.
aluminum, which is cool. They're not just a stamped steel
Yeah.
product. Look at how beefy
And
these
so
half
is the
shafts are.
upright. Look at the upright.
Yeah. Twin piston front calipers.
Yep.
Look at how beefy that half shaft is.
shafts are. You know, there's a major twist going to the wheels. A lot of torque output from the motor.
Now, on a Rivian, you're looking at a 4-motor setup. On a Hummer EV, you're looking at a 3-motor setup. This one is a 2-motor setup, so 1 per axle, and that still allows you to have all-wheel drive.
And torque vectoring.
And torque vectoring.
Yeah. It's probably sensing wheel speed on all 4 wheels. When the wheel speed goes too high, they take torque away from that one and vector it to the ones with traction. So I hear open field driving.
Well, there's some evidence of that here on the skid plates
Yeah,
where
there's a little mud.
definitely been off-road before.
So skid plate under the front motor.
This is the battery skid
Right?
here.
Not a lot of unsprung weight. You know, the aluminum really helps.
You know, it's interesting, being under this versus being under a F-150 Lightning is totally different. So the Lightning is essentially built on a modified F-150 platform,
Yes.
whereas this is the Ultium skateboard platform. So they're completely different vehicles on the underside. Everything from the batteries is pretty well covered up with the skid plates. It would be interesting on the Ford, you can actually see the battery capacity in kilowatts on the sticker underneath. I don't see, there's not a whole lot of information about what's going on behind all of this protection here.
I wish I could see it. We're considering Ultium batteries for some upcoming hybrid projects we're doing for the Army.
So what's it like to be Mr. Gale Banks, known for turbocharging? Obviously, both delved in the gas and diesel side, but now starting to really dabble and evolve with your hybrid and electrification side of the business, because that's starting to take off. And I mean, this is just really the next step in the evolution of your career. Obviously, you're a Marine before, you've done land speed racing, you've done all different fuel types.
Turbocharging for 55 years.
Is this just another fuel type for you?
Yes, I'm fuel agnostic. I don't give a damn what it is. You know, when you combine the motor generator unit with a diesel or gasoline turbocharged engine, you can amp up the turbochargers. And if you got the motor generator, there's no turbo lag because you run them up together in terms of getting the engine off idle.
Yeah, they're really good for kind of filling in the
I
gap.
want to do hybrid hot rods.
I think that would be awesome.
You know, offer hybrid hot rod engines, powertrains, so to speak.
I think that would be amazing. The beauty on that is, as the internal combustion engine comes up on the torque peak on RPM, you can fill in that whole bottom
Absolutely.
gap with electric.
I can make the turbos more laggy, but better top end.
Yeah, so you can fill in where that you would feel that lag with the electrification portion of it.
We already are doing it in a Humvee we've done for the Army, being tested at the Aberdeen Test Center right now in Maryland, and we're torque filling.
I think that's a great technology. Ram has done it a little bit with the e-torque. You'll see some of the hybrids out there do it, but to see it,
it's minuscule.
I want to see. I think what you're seeing on the marketplace that I want to see more of is performance EVs or performance hybrids, where that hybrid motor is not about range or efficiency. It's about more a better driving experience because you don't have any of those gaps in power delivery.
You've got the 48-volt hybrid setups, which are belt-driven. On the front of the engine.
Like the mild ones GM has?
Starts, it's the alternator. That's a hybrid. then you have what Toyota and Ford are selling, which is a bit more, 600 to 800 volt system if they're current.
Sure.
800 volt being current for us. And a bit more motor generator unit. So there's some torque fill there that you can actually feel. I don't know what it does for fuel economy. I've looked at the non-hybrid Toyota mileage numbers and with hybrid. It's a little bit more.
Yeah. You know, it's hard to describe hybrid to people sometimes. I saw a Lexus commercial recently that said it perfect. It says both fuels, electric for short trips, gas for long trips. And that makes a lot of sense because I think it educates the consumer who doesn't really understand why you would have those two technologies.
That is the beauty. On the Humvee, the range is pretty profound. It's a serious hybrid. The Humvees are serious hybrids.
You want to walk to the back and we can take a look and see?
Now here, the A-frames are steel.
Yeah, so lower control arms, these are steel, unlike the aluminum ones up front. It's a coil sprung, rear independent on this particular version.
The upper appears to be a forged piece. The upper control arm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty beefy.
And the upright, can you see it looks aluminum as well?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
But steel lower. probably to take strikes from stuff you're driving over, you know.
I am amazed that the motors are really only protected by a splash guard, and they actually hang down lower than
the skid plates.
The skid plates on the battery.
Yeah,
so
the skid plate is bottom of frame.
So if you're an aftermarket company wondering what kinds of products you could make for this, I would be like,
starts right there.
yeah, motor skid plate.
Yeah, serious skid plate for the rear.
Although I don't know if this one has the off-road package or not.
It's a work truck, that's for sure. No question about it.
Well, yeah, I think the 8 lugs said a lot
That's
about that,
tell
right?
there. Yeah.
The base work truck has 510 horsepower. This is definitely
This is up
above.
in the sevens.
Yeah, this is 754
Yeah.
on this particular one. I don't know what trim this is, but I know this isn't the WT trim. If you look, they actually have a temporary full-size spare in the back.
And I understand there's a 24-inch wheel option.
Yes, which is a lot of wheel.
Yeah.
Trust me, Lightning was very excited about that.
I don't know where the battery management is, or the battery cooling or heating capabilities.
It's all covered up, although you can see some of the high voltage orange cabling from the motor to the battery.
Yes.
And you can see a little bit of, I think, the coolant routing above here going to the motor. The
Yeah.
rear half shafts, amazingly enough, the rear half shafts
Look smaller.
Look smaller than the front,
than
right?
the front, yeah.
I'm wondering if that's because of the extra load from turning that they need to accommodate for in the front.
Probably, yeah.
All right, I don't know that there's more to see underneath. It's beefy. It looks like the rear subframe is pretty massive, and you can see the tow hitch on the back. So
Yep.
there's definitely structure under here. I'd love to put it down. Are they going to let us drive it?
Yep.
All right, before we put it down all the way, I've got Matt Gamble here, who is going to fill my head with all sorts of technical bits that I was unaware of or unable to put into words earlier. So, Mr. Gamble, you're standing here looking at this newest technology from General Motors. What are your thoughts?
Pretty interesting platform for a truck. This particular truck we're looking at is configured as a Chevy Silverado work truck in base trim with base interior on it, no real frills.
So this was the base. I was surprised because the wheels are the upgraded wheels because
it is an early production or pre-production vehicle, so maybe some of that stuff won't carry over.
So this is only the 500 plus horsepower version, not the 700.
Yeah, only. Yeah. Which is interesting because we don't really have any specs while we're standing here right now on the capacity of the battery. We know the vehicle weight, which is a little bit over 8,600 pounds. We know range, 450 miles at that weight, presumably. We know 0 to 60 time, which is 4.5 seconds. It's interesting to think about how many kilowatt hours this Ultium battery pack has, and then what is its maximum discharge rate or its C rating to put that kind of power out, and what does that translate to as you use the truck in a work environment as this one is configured for.
So it looks like the base version, so if this is the 510 horse version, is 400 miles of range on a full charge is what they're saying.
But we don't know what the capacity of the battery is, right? So I think Gale was talking about efficiencies and how does that translate and range, right? So
It's terrain-based and load-based.
Yep.
And velocity-based. So if you state a range, is that 35 miles an hour on flat land? What is that?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then also aero comes into effect around 55, 60 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
So that's in diminishing returns the faster you go. That's not a one-to-one. That's an exponential increase as speed increases.
and all
The square of the velocity.
and all the guys we've talked to today have said how much fun this truck is to drive because it does.
Because it's the base model light one?
and it really moves when you put your foot into it. But every time you do that, what does that do into your range, right?
Exactly.
You're really chewing away at it.
It's a big deal.
What I'm told, and I don't know because this was from early production, going through my notes, it's a 200 kilowatt battery pack on the work truck.
Okay.
So we got a 200 kWh. Whether that changed or not, it's possible it could have. Most of the manufacturers will state that, and the battery capacity is actually more than that. And the reason for that, for people listening, is because you don't live from 0 to 100% in an EV in charge like you do in an internal combustion vehicle where you're filling the gas tank from 0 to 100. You live between 20 and 80%, and they don't want somebody who's going to plug in every night and top off, which isn't the best for the batteries every single night, to be maxing out the battery pack.
The system will not let you top off the battery.
Right.
Period.
Which is why they give you a lower rating than what is actually in the vehicle.
They're lying to you about the number.
Yes.
In other words, you go to 100, there's still overhead on the battery.
Absolutely.
You go to 0, there's still basement on the battery, so to speak. So I had a GM EV1 for a while. It was their first ever.
The story behind that, and there's still a few that escaped being brought back, but that's a whole other topic. It was look at the EV1 history. Google that if you're listening to this. The story is amazing.
I had mine fully charged, had a charge indicator at the base of the windshield. I'm going to the gym in Pasadena. I go up the on-ramp. I go a mile and a half to the freeway, downgrade, go up the on-ramp, leg it 70 miles an hour in the fast lane, look down at that charge indicator, an eighth of the charge was gone. 1/8 of it was gone. And that wasn't like a quarter mile or something.
All right, well, let's see what this thing will do on the on-ramp. Hopefully it's not an eighth of the charge.
Yeah.
So then I proceed to lower the lift and back the EV off the lift, and that is actually the first time I've ever driven an EV. Isn't that weird?
Ever? Except for that golf cart you have in your garage.
I don't consider that. I mean, yeah, it's an EV, but I don't consider that an actual car. So I take it off the lift, and then I put it in the street, and you and the guy from GM and Matt and Gale all hopped in and went for a little ride.
All right, so here we are in the brand new Silverado EV. Again, it should have been called the EV Lanch because that's what it is.
You're really milking it up.
I am, or the Avalanche. Either way, would have been fine. All right, Gale is behind the wheel and he's buckling up for safety. And we've got our GM corporate overlords are in the car with us to make sure we don't do anything super stupid.
Oh, no, I'm not going to light them up.
It won't light them up.
Yeah,
We're going to find a way.
It has a really good all-wheel drive system in it.
So
Chris Bruni is outside egging Gale on. We're at the end of the cul-de-sac ready to launch.
That matters because Chris Bruni is our corporate counsel.
Yes. And he was telling Gale to do a burnout.
What lawyer does that? He's like, light it up, old man.
A good one?
Yeah, so the right-hand side is basically your kilowatt meter.
Okay.
So when it goes up and orange and eventually red, that means you're using electricity.
Yep.
When it goes down, it'll turn green. That means you're regenerating the battery and braking. Yeah. Right now, I do have you set up in the standard 2-pedal drive mode, so it'll drive like a normal vehicle.
Yep.
I can set you up into the 1-pedal on our way back, so you can try it both.
Throttle and it brakes.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. This is battery condition.
That's battery
On the
life.
left?
Yep.
And what are we reading here?
So that's basically like a fuel tank almost. For your
Exactly.
battery. So you're about a quarter tank roughly. You have
Yeah,
122 miles range.
It's not giving me a percentage, so we're estimating. It's a quarter, half, 3/4.
Yeah, you can toggle over and I think
That's
it'll give you a percentage.
26.9%, Gale.
There you go.
That was 26.952.
I don't know if it reads out.
Oh, it's got an energy efficiency.
2 miles per
do you
kilowatt
want-
hour.
Whichever screen you prefer.
So,
I personally like this one, but it's up to you.
Yeah, because this will give you speed and power consumption versus
Correct.
speed.
Yep.
Okay, so I just release the brake. Try not to snap everybody's heads off.
Everyone's buckled, yes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Feel free to accelerate hard. That's what it's here for.
Yeah.
All right, we're accelerating out onto the main road here. So 50, 55.
It's so smooth. The sensation of going through the gears, it's not there. Nor is the engine noise, of course. It's deceptive. It just pulls. And we're getting braking here. I'm using the pedal, and I'm getting regen braking. And we're on the dual pedal setup. All right.
Now, last time I took this drive route with Gale, I was giving him a ride in my 392, and this is completely different.
Yeah, we don't say give it gas anymore. Give it some voltage, right?
Yes. Well, we can still say, no, not throttle, not foot feed. What are?
I think we got to say give it some voltage.
I think you can still say give it the beans.
Give
Well,
us some
there you go.
KWs. How about that?
There we got some KWs. I like it. And when you're ready, I can swap it to the one pedal drive mode for you.
Yes.
So you want to do that now or a
Well,
little
that's
later?
like Autopia at Disneyland when I was a kid, you know.
Did you say yes to do
Well,
it now?
I never let off no, don't do it yet. I never let off the throttle.
One's all you need, right?
Well, I get, one of my kids in front of me, and then I run into him repeatedly. Just an so slight electric motor sound.
That's not the supercharger?
If it is, it's really a punk ass supercharger. And
60.
60.
So that is 510 horsepower and a so far unknown amount of torque.
How did that feel? Just listening to this, enjoying it. Like, did it feel? Have you been in a Tesla Plaid?
I have not been in a Plaid, but it would be nowhere close to that.
Okay. Did it feel like a 3? I guess those are pretty quick as well.
I
right?
mean, it just felt devoid of soul.
Did it?
Felt like a really nice refrigerator.
So this is not as nice as the Rivian.
No. And it's not, you can feel the heaviness. Like, absolutely, you can feel the heaviness. It just, like, I'm not going to say I was underwhelmed. I know this is, quote unquote, the 510 horsepower version. I think this one had 615 pound-feet of torque compared to the RST, which elevates those numbers quite a bit. But it's fast. It's 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. If you took the sound away from my 392 when it was stock, it would be really similar to that. But it lacks the visceralness. You get the adrenaline dump, you get pushback in your seat, and you get nothing else.
So there's no audio like the Hummer has?
The Hummer has a
other...
soundtrack that allows you to kind of feel what's going on. This is just like nothing.
I can't recall. Did the Rivian have a soundtrack or no?
No.
So just silence?
Just silence.
How does the Rivian have more... how does it make you feel?
The Rivian's different because it's a smaller vehicle. It feels tighter in the cabin. You wear it more, whereas this feels more like you're in a full-size Chevy or a Tahoe. It's really big. There's a lot around.
So you're saying
the
Rivian has skinny jeans and the Silverado's overalls?
It's cargo shorts.
Oh, cargo. Okay.
I thought this dual motor was...
That's on the RST version. This is the WT.
So the RST goes from 510 to 754 horsepower. And from the work truck we were in at 615 pound-feet of torque, it goes to 785.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference.
Big jump.
Yeah.
RST is 754 or something like that?
That's what it will be when it's in production.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will that be a 3 motor?
That'll be a 2 because I think the 3s are being reserved for the Hummer EV.
Yeah. Let's do the single pedal.
Okay. So single pedal, all we do is hit this button here. And it's in high sensitivity mode.
Okay.
And now you're ready to drive in single pedal mode.
You can set the level sensitivity.
So there was the setting there that we could change the sensitivity.
Okay. That's serious braking. Can you regulate that as well? The braking...
So there's only 2 settings. One is just on, and the other is high sensitivity, which is what we're currently in.
So up to about 30 miles an hour, drop throttle. Whoa, it decels. Like a champ. We're charging the hell out of the battery pack there, I would think.
I saw a story the other day talking about some R&D research going into whether you could eventually replace traditional hydraulic braking with motor regen braking.
It'll come to virtually no velocity. Boom.
It'll stop completely if you let it.
I want your heads to come off. Wow. Man, that's stopping a lot of weight real quick, isn't it? That's serious. I wonder what 60 to 0 is in this thing. Nothing broke loose.
Just Matt and I in the back.
So when you get a moment, do try to make a U-turn in this. The turning radius is quite impressive for a vehicle of this size.
All right, I'll do it on that back street. U-turn here. Let's see what I can do. Amazing. You're shitting me.
Just made a complete U-turn within a city street here.
Why don't you take it on the back street and let you gamble?
Yep.
Settle.
All right.
All right, well, after that, I pulled over and let Matt Gamble drive, and we had a chance to experience it with him at the helm. And then Gale and I got out and had this brief discussion of, I guess, a download, a debrief.
Debrief, I like that. Yeah.
Of what we both thought.
All right, so now that the adrenaline has left both of our bodies from that hardcore hot EV action, so what do you think driving one of those for the first time?
Smooth.
I'm going to go see hot EV action. They're playing the Guardian Playhouse in Irvine.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Powerful. I don't know about the range.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about 400 miles. I'm skeptical.
Maybe as an air hauler.
Yeah. Empty bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about this off mic, and basically the 0-60 thing is something, they're giving you that.
Yeah.
But if it's a work truck,
you don't need it.
You don't need it. You don't want it.
Yeah, tune it down for your guys, right?
You don't want,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I think that it's great to see the technology. It'll be interesting to see what the adoption is. I think the Silverado is a little different than, say, an F-150 Lightning because they don't have the same bed accessories, right? It doesn't use the same cabin bed as the normal truck.
Unique.
Brand new. So you have to create a new accessory market for it. So that kind of stuff aside, I think it's interesting to see the technology and what they're doing because if nothing else, I'm sure for different use cases we could pick apart, this aspect of it or that. But to ignore all that for a minute, just sit in the vehicle and drive it, I think it was really impressive engineering feat.
Very solid vehicle. No squeaks, no rattles, no nothing. Acoustically, kind of cool for your sound system.
Yeah, right.
It's a solid vehicle. We're interested in the technology. What can we buy from GM and use in our military stuff? So the battery system really intrigues me. Yeah. I understand it's modular.
Yeah, the Ultium system is their big play in batteries, and there's a lot of technology there. And I understand that there's patents coming out all the time. I know there was just a patent that GM got for a fire suppression system within the battery pack itself. So it's interesting to see the things they're thinking of as we progress more toward EV adoption.
Yeah, and the newer technology, the chemistry in the batteries.
This difference between lithium ion and solid state, and there's a bunch of different things happening right now.
But fire resistance, if you will, can be engineered as you engineer new battery chemistry. That's getting better and better. I know that we're testing with the Army back at the Aberdeen Test Center right now, and with our hybrid Humvee program we've done for the Army, they didn't want us to be in a building.
Oh, sure. Because they didn't know what the batteries could.
They put a maximum value on the building we could work in.
Okay.
And then they found us a building that was beneath that maximum value. So there's a lot of fear.
Yeah, a lot of things you got to work out.
There's a lot of unknown about this battery management. Bad battery management can cause battery fires.
Oh, and there's been all sorts of issues.
Not necessarily the chemistry. It's the management of the battery. The cooling, for one. Hot environment, your cooling fails, whatever.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I'm thankful for GM for bringing that by, and I appreciate the invite over to Banks so that I could get behind the wheel because, I haven't done that yet.
Well, thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
Let's go get tacos.
Yeah, tacos. We're on.
You and Gale wandered into my office, wrangled me, and we went over to La Tolteca, and you got the world's largest wet burrito.
Yep, it was a day filled with futuristic trucks and old school Mexican food. My favorite.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis with production elements by DJ Omar Khan. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and give us a 5-star rating. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to show your support than by patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.